Hello?
Okay, so hi, sorry for the slight moment of silence. We were just waiting for a few more attendees to join, but we'll commence the webinar now. So thanks for going back on mute. We'll start with a quick introduction. Welcome, hello, good day, good morning, good evening. Some of you hear that the second time, but we're happy to have you here today. We want to take an hour of your time to bring you our perspective, some insights that we have collected about how brands have reacted to changing customer needs during the current COVID-19 situation. We aim to be useful. We hope to be interesting. The way we've done it is selected case examples that we think are either an example of something great, something interesting, something different. And we have a little wrapper of methodology around it that we'll start and end with. But mainly it is inspirational examples that we hope you'll find useful for yourselves and to take away to do something with. My name is Jan Rögler. I'm the VP of Strategy at Antavo. I also run our in-house boutique consultancy arm, Antavo Loyalty Labs, that aims to help customers, prospects with setting up, optimizing loyalty initiatives. And with me today presenting is Giulia Filoso, one of our loyalty strategists that is particularly focused on retail and brands. So hi, Giulia.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And we're looking forward to share with you best practices and examples we saw on the market right now. And we look forward to hear your feedback on these as well and get your questions at the end of the session.
Thanks, Giulia. Yes, so a little bit of housekeeping. We have this presentation structured in 3 sections, and at the end, we're planning for 15 minutes of Q&A time. So please, any questions you have, submit them via the chat when we get to it. I can't guarantee that your question will still be visible if you submit it too early, so try to write it down and submit it later. There's also an opportunity to send messages privately if you don't want to share to the whole audience, but that's it. There are no planned breaks. And so without further ado, let me move into the content of the presentation. Okay, now I need to figure out how to do that. Okay, so the agenda for today. I want to do a really brief recap of the impact of COVID-19 and what has done to the context in which we're all operating. So we're looking at a bit of a timeline, customer impact, and also what's changed already in certain behavior that we've observed. We've done the main part, and the bulk of the webinar is going to be dedicated to sharing with you some best practice examples that we found and that we want to present and discuss with you a little bit. And in the final section, then try to wrap it back in and make it sense for you and your own business. What does it mean? What next steps can we recommend from that? What can we learn? And how do you take this back to your own business and do something new and do something meaningful for your customers with it? I saw a question coming in. We will be making these slides available, so you don't have to take any screenshots or anything. This material will be made available to you afterwards. Okay, so impact of COVID-19. Now, I don't really have to describe to you what's going on in the world today. You're all, I think, imminently aware of it, and probably all sitting at home to enjoy this webinar today. But nonetheless, here's a little timeline that I thought is interesting because it shows 3 aspects that I want to focus on today, that we want to focus on today. Now, for one, we have disruption to the economic activity, store closures. We have social distancing. We have economic pressure, not just on businesses, but also on people. And the timeline is illustrating it quite well, what I'm trying to bring to life today here. You can see how the situation has accelerated and has become more severe over time. And you probably know these dates and these facts. But what I wanted to make the point is, this is real. This is real. People are getting sick. Some people are dying. So there's a lot of hardship. It's also real that there's lockdown. People are locked up in their homes. People can't go to work. Offices have closed. And then the final point, the March 28 number, 10 million new unemployment applications in 2 weeks in the US. So there's real economic impact and consequences to a lot of people. This doesn't even cover, people in non-structured employment. This doesn't cover freelancers who now have a severe drop in project work. And what does that mean now? There's a new customer reality, and we've coined here 3 terms that I want to introduce. The first one being the home hub. Now, what does that mean? Well, we are going to be more at home. We're going to be almost exclusively at home, and that has consequences. And it has consequences, one on commercial channels. Predominantly and almost only e-commerce is going to be available in certain industries. It also has to be contactless, because we all want to avoid, obviously, getting infected or infecting other people. So being locked up at home is not just the purpose of being at home, it's also the purpose of social distancing and not to meet other people. And then finally, there's a need to still stay connected. There's a need for entertainment delivered online. There's a need for distraction, not just for yourself, also for your children, or the ones that are with you in your household. But there's also a need to stay in touch with your wider social network that you used to meet in person, but you can't anymore. So virtual friends, which are real friends, but you're meeting them in a virtual way. The second element here is crisis spend. So not just for those who are directly economically affected, but we've all heard the word recession floating around. There's a real, not just expectation, it's going to come. We will be in a recession. For how long, we don't know. For how severe, we don't know. So even those of you who are not affected currently economically, there's a real worry that they might be in the future, and that we have to put some money aside, and that we have to constrain our spend. And we're definitely going to see different spending patterns from everyone in the current environment and in the months to come. The first thing how that introduces itself is the food essentials. So food and essentials. Everyone still has to buy that. And there's actually increased demand in certain categories. So we've seen it for sanitizing products. We've seen it for healthcare supply. We've seen it for hygiene articles. We've seen it for those things that people don't want to run out of. There is an increased demand right now. A lot of that is functional spend. So it's the things that I need to keep my companies, to keep my family safe. It's the things that I need to keep myself safe. It's the things that I would say on the hierarchy of needs, you'll find towards the bottom. But we also see some emotional decisions being made, because you can only function as a functional human being for so long. So interestingly, we've seen in a lot of countries and territories, alcohol sales go up. People distracting themselves, I guess. And we've seen some other, more entertaining items go up that are not strictly functional, but they fulfill the needs of still enjoying ourselves. What we've also seen is that there's a lot more influencer or influencer power or influenced shopping that's currently being happening, as people turning more and more onto their social networks, into their online channels to get information. They're also exposed more to influencer news, to more recommendations, to more friends and family giving advice. So spend patterns are changing. And the third one that's really important is the care and share. Now, I said before, and you saw it in the timeline, this is real. This is a real crisis. People are wanting and trying to help. That could be in the form of direct donations. It could be in the form of volunteering your time. And it's not just yourself that you're worried about, it is the community. We see a lot of support for healthcare professionals, for people at the front line of coronavirus, fighting the situation, trying to keep everybody safe. So, empathetic, altruistic behavior is coming out very strong in consumers today. And as a consequence, we can also see that, As a consequence, we can also see that communication style is changing, and communication style that isn't changing is now being perceived in a bad way. Empathy is a new norm in marketing. So brands are communicating in a very empathetic way. It's serve, don't sell at the moment. And we've seen some really good examples here. Guinness is just one that we picked, which was a campaign to St. Patrick's Day. When you raise your glass, raise for yourself, raise for everybody. So bringing a community element into Guinness consumption. But at the same time, the company put a $500,000 fund into charity that was also unlocked as part of this campaign. So they're matching the empathy to an individual with an empathetic donation to the community. So that's really strong. We also have two, I would say, slightly less positive examples here. I want to briefly mention GameStop. It's a gaming store in the US. They were following a strategy of trying to declare themselves as an essential service in Corona times to keep all the retail locations open, forcing their employees to work, forcing their employees to resist police action to close the stores, and that faced enormous backlash, not from employees who have been handing in resignations, but also from customers and consumers, both online and direct. Another example from the airline industry here, who traditionally have not been known to be the most forthcoming in any refund. EasyJet here, using a strategy of making refunds for flights that are no longer available, dependent on a call center claims process. The call center was overloaded, so customers that didn't get through would actually not get a refund, but instead would be entitled to a new flight or a flight voucher, which isn't that helpful, I would say, if the flight was booked to, let's say, attend a conference that is no longer happening, attend a sports event that you're no longer going to be able to go to. So again, customer backlash here, and we can find a multitude of examples. So getting it right is more important than ever, because there is going to be a wide community of people with a lot of time and a lot of time spent online to trigger backlash and shitstorms for you. With that being said, as kind of the framework that we're operating in, so three key new areas, three new realities: the home hub, the care and share, and the crisis spend, together with a need for being very empathetic in customer communication, on which we want to look at the following examples. These are things that we found. Some you may have seen, some hopefully you haven't. We put them a little bit in context. For some we have data, and for others we just believe that they're good or we like them, and we'll explain why. So by no means is this attempting to be a scientific dissertation, but we hope you find it interesting. And I will hand over to Julia to introduce the first one here.
Yes, thank you, Jan. I want to start this example with one very simple concept that we are all facing right now. All companies have the need and sort of the must at the moment, I think, to meet customers where they are, and that at the moment is at home. And it's no wonder that we are in a situation when many people are turning digital, even those people that commonly would just, prefer an offline shopping experience or simply heading out for a coffee, let's say. E-commerce is booming, and is booming not only for essential products. Customers seem still to have the need to sort of cuddle themselves with some online shopping, buying some, for example, some clothes, some self-care products that can give them a sense of comfort and make them forget, at least for those 10 minutes, what they are facing right now. What's important to consider is that e-commerce has always been, as we probably all know, a highly competitive channel. Well, we are in front of a situation when e-commerce is extremely competitive more than ever, since all eyes are pointing towards the online channel right now. So it's not a secret that customers should be provided with measures that ease their customer experience and that can provide a sense of safety, security in a time that's highly uncertain in all these aspects. So we have here three examples of how three companies try to face this current situation. Let me start with Luisa Via Roma. That's an Italian e-commerce luxury retailer. And what Luisa Viroma decided to do is extending its return period to 60 days. How come this decision was taken? Well, at the moment, both deliveries and returns are quite difficult. Companies must respect, on a side, safety measures that obviously are important to respect, but at the same time are slowing down the logistics and the overall process. And on the other hand, many e-commerce stores are facing an above average demand, since many offline shoppers are now turning to the e-commerce channel. And extending the return period gives customers a feeling of reliability. It's a sort of extra collateral in case the product they bought is not, after all, what they were expecting. If not reacting on the return policy, what could be done is also reacting on the delivery itself, and that's what DSW did. So what DSW went for is granting its customers a free online delivery. And I believe there are, well, three main reasons that we can identify here why this was done. First of all, it's probably a way to proactively react to eventual delays that, due to the safety measures, customers would face. At the same time, well, delivery has always been a service that e-commerce companies would leverage to attract customers. And in an increasingly competitive market, I believe it's became sort of a must to have to win over a transaction. So it's a way to face competition. And finally, I would say that DSW decided to serve and not sell at a certain point, because many of its offline customers are turning to the online channel, and they might be more reluctant to purchase online, and simply avoid them to pay the extra delivery charge is a way to convert them easier. Coming now to the last example, we can say that not all e-commerce companies kept their operations running everywhere, and that's what happened with Net-a-Porter, that shut down its operations in the most affected areas, including Europe and US, but it kept its business active in the Asia Pacific. What Net-a-Porter decided to do is not to completely cut off the relationship, the connection with its customers in the affected area, and it provided a chance to shop on their Hong Kong website store, which is surely not the most convenient way to shop, since there is no extra service or incentive provided, but it's definitely proving that the company is caring for the current situation and is respecting the restrictions put by governments, which might be appreciated by customers right now. And with this, I hand over the next example back to Jörn.
Thank you, Julia. Wait, I jumped one too far.
Yes.
Here's an example of how companies that have actually active loyalty programs, how they have reacted. These are just representatives, I would say, of their industry. So both in hotels and airlines, where the services are actually severely disrupted, so people are not able to use these services at the moment, they have immediately removed expiration of points, expiration of tiers. Now, if you can't use your points to redeem, then you shouldn't penalize your customers to not be able to redeem them at the moment. The second is that they have also relaxed rebooking conditions. So either current bookings that were in place, how to rebook them, but also giving more relaxed rebooking conditions for any new bookings that are happening at this moment in time, giving customers the confidence to book something, even they're not really convinced yet when operations will resume. If you can rebook easily and at no extra cost, that helps keep the business going. For those that have services available but they are non-essential, so e-commerce providers that are still open, keeping customers engaged at this moment in time and keeping that spend active, even though it may not be essential and not functional. They've gone to two types of activities. One, reducing the minimum spend for redemption. So it's easier now to get redemption of discounts, redemption of vouchers, keeping customers happy with the benefits provided from the loyalty program. But also lowering the thresholds lowering the thresholds for rewards. That's what I just described. Reducing the minimum spend, meaning that you can actually try out these new e-commerce services with, let's say, smaller orders. That draws in a customer segment into the loyalty program as well. That may just be new to the whole e-commerce world. We've seen that older generations are more and more becoming or migrating over to e-commerce services at the moment, and they don't necessarily jump into larger order values at this moment in time. The next example, I will hand back to Julia.
Yes, and this is an example that I want to start more from a personal perspective than a business perspective. So this lockdown is basically not letting people have very real social interactions, let alone social gatherings. And many are trying to find alternative ways to engage with their friends online, for example, by organizing simple apps, a Skype or a Zoom call. But this is not a situation that only affected customers, it also affected those businesses that provided forms of entertainment offline. And one of the clearest examples are bars and pubs. And yes, thank you. And one of these companies that proactively reacted in a different way to this situation is BrewDog, a Scottish brewery that most of you might know. After having to close their over 100 bars all over the world, BrewDog decided to open virtual bars where people can actually join in and simply have a bit of fun with other people that join the event, such as an online quiz or a beer tasting event or simply a live music session. And this replies to the need that people actually are searching for a contact, a virtual social contact, and there is a need to feel part of a community. I do believe that the chance to develop a sense of community around a brand is actually real now, and that's not only for those companies like BrewDog who provide entertainment, it's also for other types of businesses and industries. Customers also we remember who was there during this period and who was there to raise their spirits during the lockdown, to give them something extra to think about, something else to do. And with this year, if we can move on to the next example. So the way that it's possible to interact with customers right now is not just through fun activities, but it's also by contributing to giving them and providing them with options to maintain a healthy lifestyle, which is hard to have under a lockdown. That's why this next example we are bringing is from Under Armour, that recently launched a 30 days workout challenge that's actually linked to a charity donation initiative. So we're in a moment, as I said, where keeping a healthy lifestyle at home is very hard. And this, on a side, gives to those businesses that deal with health and sports, such as sportswear brands and gyms, to be close to their audiences and provide them with relevant content or maybe some challenge or initiative that can support their workout routine at home when gyms cannot be reached and no one can actually go outside to run or have a workout. So how does this Under Armour's challenge work? Well, the rules are pretty straightforward. Customers have to record their workouts of minimum 20 minutes each day. And for each milestones they complete, for example, reaching 3 workouts, they are going to contribute to a donation to Sports Goods, which is an organization granting sports equipment to children in need during this period. Now, I think there are 3 main aspects I want to highlight of this initiative that I personally like very much. So at first, it does exploit the so-called weak point of each sporty person, which is competitiveness. There is a leaderboard that keeps track of the challenge, and here the most competitive and sporty participants can actually see who works out the most. Secondly, this leaderboard is also a source of inspiration for those people that do want to have a healthy lifestyle but might not be the fittest. And third, and maybe most importantly, this challenge is a sort of double emotional boost. On a side, it gives you the chance to keep yourself healthy, but the best part is that you can actually contribute to society and give something back to the community, not financially, but by doing something that basically making you feel good as well. And I think this results in definitely a good brand image for Under Armour, and I feel like this will actually have a positive long-term impact on the company as well. With this, Jörn, I hand it over to you for the next example.
Yes. The next slide talks about multiple companies that did variations of a similar theme. This goes back to the care and share, about the concern for the community, the concern for the well-being of everybody at this moment in time. And we see here 3 different brands that do support this using their special capabilities and resources. So Uber has launched. I know it for a fact only in London, but I'm assuming this is a wider initiative. Be curious to hear from everybody else if they've experienced it elsewhere. So in London, they've donated 200,000 free Uber rides for any NHS worker, any healthcare worker. And in addition, Uber Eats is supplementing that with another 100,000 free food deliveries that will be also available for healthcare workers, so frontline staff. Coming in a time where I'm assuming they have a lot of capacity because their core business is suffering from no contact rules. It's a great way to inject yourself into the public conversation, and especially for a brand that has been under scrutiny and under some public criticism, this is a great moment to add something very positive. Ramazzotti, just like other alcohol producers, have switched part of their production line to produce hand sanitizers. One of the items, very trivial in normal times, but now very much in need and very valuable and very sought after for doctors' practices, for hospitals, but also for yourself at home or when you go out. And the third example, one of the representatives of the car industry or the automotive industry that have just, again, changed some of their production line with what they can with their assets available to produce a really key product for the protection of employees and healthcare workers. So face masks and shields, something to be delivered, again, to doctors' practices, hospitals, where it is actually really needed to break those chains of infection. Now, they've done that, obviously, to capture the mood of the people in the moment, what I've said earlier, this care and share element. But they've also done that because they could and because they cared. And it provides an opportunity to keep some of their staff active and in employment and paid for, which is something that also people care about quite a lot. And they've done it because they understood that it's necessary. So this is going to take a long-lasting effect, positive effect on their brands if it's communicated well and reinforced later. I would expect that we hear about this more when the situation comes back to normal. The next example will be from a brand that I don't think any one of you would have heard of. It's Community Food Market West Oakland. But to me, it doesn't matter whether the brand is big or large, big or small, or whether what they're doing is the right thing. This is something they put in place to really support any efforts to break those infectious chains and to protect their customers. Going the extra mile. So what I've done is 2 things. The first one is they've limited their own sales for the sake of preventing hoarding, preventing people to buy more than they need, preventing running out of stock on essential items, thereby allowing everybody to shop at their own convenience at their own time, not having to all rush at 9 a.m. in the morning to get the things before they're taken off the shelf, which would be really counterproductive for the social distancing measures. But to support that, they've put 2 more things in place, which will really help those more vulnerable than the average customer. So the first one, their CalFresh benefit program. People with lower income that used to be able to get a 10% discount can now get a 50% discount. And there's going to be free food delivery for the elderly who really should be avoiding social contacts at the moment in time. So by putting both of those mechanisms in place, I think they have a very strong holistic approach on how they're responding to the current situations that makes customers feel good, that'll make employees feel good, and that'll make the greater community feel good. Again, just to comment, any questions we'll keep to the end, to the Q&A. So I'm receiving them. Don't worry about it. We'll touch on them later.
And I'll come to take the next example from here. And the next example we're going to see now, it's actually from E.l.f, a cosmetics brand that is probably known to most of you. And what E.l.f actually realized is a TikTok video. That's a platform that's heavily used nowadays during the lockdown, especially by youngsters and teenagers. That's part of their target audience. And this funny TikTok was able to raise awareness around the COVID-19 situation and safety measures. So right now, the lack of external contacts and let alone the inability to work, to go to school, is giving people a lot of time on their hands. And a lot of time, whether we want it or not, this time translates into boredom. And it's not strange to spend a significant amount of time on social media. That's why people have to distract themselves. They need some sort of fun content. And at the same time, they have the need to feel reassured that other people are feeling like them, that they are out there. So I do believe there has never been a moment, a good moment, such a good moment like this one for companies to communicate to customers through social media. And I'm not talking about any sort of promotional content in itself. I'm more talking about fun content, simple, authentic, even raw content. It doesn't need to be highly complicated. It just needs to feel real, because that's how customers would actually feel closer to your brand in a moment like this. And just like I mentioned before, in the case of BrewDog, that's what customers are going to remember once this is all over. So if we want to quickly speak of what E.l.f did with these TikTok videos, they actually took a song that was highly popular at the end of 2019, and they created a short remix of the song promoting the safety measures for COVID-19, such as maintain safety distance or wash your hands often. And I do believe this is a good example of how fun content can be created with possibly quite a small effort, and at the same time bringing some reassurance to people in the moment like the one we are facing now. And Jörn, if we can switch over to the next example, please. Next example we have comes from Starbucks. And this is representative of many similar businesses that serve, let's say, non-essential products that we used to consume every day in our normal routines. This, for a company like Starbucks, is a tough moment to serve its customers, as it is unable to serve them as it would normally do. People can simply walk on the street and walk in a cafe and order their coffee before getting to work. That's not how things are at the moment. So what Starbucks did was finding an alternative way to serve its customers until when the normal conditions would eventually come back. That's why it decided to go to market quickly with a partnership with Uber Eats in order to provide coffee at home in 48 states of the United States. And this is a way to be there 24/7 for your customers when they need you, even in a situation that doesn't really recall normality. And this also gives a chance, for example, in the case of Starbucks, to learn more about this segment of customers, learn more about their habits. What do they order? How often do they order? Is it going to be representative of the future, or did they change their needs and consumption in this period? And with this, I'm giving the word to Jörn again for the last example.
Yeah, the last example again is one of multiple companies, or multi-brands. This is about companies adjusting their service offerings. Some will be new, some will have been planned and now have accelerated rollout because the time is ripe. And actually, if you have something in your drawers that you're considering to roll out, this is a time where your customers will be very lenient, let's say. No one expects perfection at the moment. If there is a new service offering that is pertinent for the times that we're in, you can roll it out before it's 100% tried and tested, and customers will be very ready and very eager to help you get it right. So the first here is about contactless product delivery or contactless processes. I have the examples firsthand from being in Germany, but there are many more. Lieferando, who is the local food delivery service, DHL, who deliver packages, they've implemented contactless delivery options straight away. So food will just be left in front of your door. There's no longer any signature necessary when you receive packages to confirm receipt of the goods. I've read there's a process in place where customers are now signing with their own pen on the package, and the picture is taken by the delivery person from a few meters away to just enable contactless. There's an example from China in Shenzhen. Car rental companies offered a 6 days for the price of 5 deal. So customers who could get a corporate car rental for the week were able to keep it for an extra day, so they can do all their shoppings and all their personal errands on a Saturday by using the car and not having to rely on public transport. Second, online services, things that have been delivered traditionally in store. Why not use them? And deliver them in a digital way? What I like about these two examples that are in here is that it's not just the traditional process that's been moved online, because we've seen that everywhere. What's different about this is that it makes use of the employees that now currently are also working from home, locked up at home, store staff or branch staff for the case of banks. Now, customer advice services about investment, about products, etc., or about fashion advice, personal shopping advice, they have moved online, creating a network of micro-influencers that used to be your store staff, which is fun and motivating for your people, keeps them busy. It's also really engaging for your customers, because there's still that personal connection that is part of the in-store experience that people sometimes miss online. And this could be something that we believe might be here to stay. Finally, helpful content. These are the screenshots you'll see on the right. Sarah Flint. Similarly, also using staff and using the unique talents and interests of their staff to bring things to people to make their life a little bit easier. You can see here, junior art director of Sarah Flint is holding an online watercoloring 101 class because that's a hobby of hers, and people's locked up at home with kids, this is something that they will enjoy. Or second example, very different, how to do an online job interview in these times. So giving advice again from an employee, giving best practice, giving tips to customers, which is not at all connected to the products they're selling, but very helpful and very useful for customers at this moment in time. And these are things that we believe are really going to be remembered. So this concludes the section where we give examples. What we see in the market. I hope they were fun, I hope they were new, I hope they were fresh. But let's not forget to bring it all back together. And let's not forget to talk to you about, what does that actually mean? What do you do now? And let me show you a couple of slides here. So if you don't have a loyalty program, you can lay the groundwork today for a loyalty initiative, whether that's a program or not. It's a topic for another day. But let's learn from what we've just seen. First of all, what you should do now, provide positive customer experiences. New content, new services, adjust to your changed customer expectations and needs. Be empathetic and proactive. And where you can, involve your staff, personnel, because they are the ambassadors of your brand anyway. And if they can bring it to life, that's the best for your brand. Then, when you have worked on the positive customer experiences, try to create repeat engagement or repeat activity. Repetition is one of the keys to loyalty. It's one of the keys to habit building. It's one of the keys to customers not looking elsewhere. So there are easy entry points into loyalty initiatives, challenges and badges. Basically, you're asking customers to complete a set of actions, and they can get a reward at the end of it. So you don't need a large structure in place. You don't need a large point system in place. All you do is people register, they complete an action, you give them a reward, and then you can repeat and repeat, and that's building engagement. Try out subscribing to some services for preferred access. The example, for example, we saw earlier, some of these online services are oversubscribed. It's really tough to use them because everyone wants to. So make it an entry, give your email address, get some customer commitment for preferred access. and just really encourage the customer dialogue, getting in touch with your staff. All of these repeat actions will build loyalty in the long run. And then the next step would be to collect the customer information that you need. So head start for later loyalty design is that you understand what your customers are doing right now. So customer registration, if you have trouble seeing the right side of the slide. So sorry, store all the data that's related to all the activities, start building a single customer view, build yourself the groundworks to be able to launch more meaningful, more in-depth loyalty initiatives when you're ready for that. Now, if you do have a loyalty program, slightly different situation. What we talked about earlier is, first step, remove all sources of friction with your loyal customers. Remove postponed expirations, lower your redemption thresholds, and be proactive and be generous. This is the time where people will remember it. The second step would then be adjusting your incentives and rewards in a meaningful way for yourself and for your customers. So I talked about these new service offerings that are emerging. Sometimes people need a little nudge to adopt a new service. So you could use a loyalty program to incentivize the usage of these things. You can create new altruistic rewards. So why wouldn't people, for example, donate points instead of using them for their own discount? Maybe donating discounts to other people, healthcare workers, or even into charities. And develop just some real fun new brand engagement elements. Online quiz, online service. We saw the online pub. That could be something that could be an incentive or a reward for customers in your loyalty program. So roll out those new business models and use the loyalty program, if you have it, to incentivize it, to measure it, to track it, and to make people feel good about it. So then the next step would be really preparing for the future. Okay, I don't know how I can see this. There we go. If you want to come out stronger, you got to get ready, because at some point things will reopen. So prepare it already now, that you can create special rewards for those customers that are returning later. They are ready to return when things go back to normal. They are not leaving you now that their previously preferred channel becomes available again. Accelerate the migration to not just digital, but to omni-channel. So most of us are on that path where we're moving more towards omni-channel than offline. And that migration might be accelerated now. So make sure your loyalty program is ready for that too. And by all means, use this opportunity to test and learn about your customer preferences, your customer attitudes, about the mechanics of campaigns, of loyalty programs. Get ready for when it all gets back to normal. So I have one more slide for the segment of companies that actually experience a very rare situation. Their business is booming. This key essential stuff. Talking about food delivery here. I'm talking about, which we've seen like double and triple customer numbers in a couple of months. E-commerce, essential services. A lot of companies have seen a vast influx of customers right now, and they're even struggling to deliver the product. Now, when you look at it from a marketing challenge, the key challenge is to turn today's guests into tomorrow's customers. You're currently seeing a lot of people that you've borrowed from your competition and borrowed from businesses that, from other categories actually of spend. If you don't want these guests to leave, you have to do something. So prevent them to return to their previous shopping patterns. There's a piece of data here that I found interesting from China. The share of customers in e-commerce that are 45 plus has increased 27% between January and February. So it is segments coming online now that have resisted to do so in the past. So be ready for those guys. They might go back, but not if you give them a great experience. So act now. Every new customer coming is an opportunity. Think about defensive measures. What do I mean by that? Defensive measures in loyalty programs are often those that are related to transactions and are related to status. So benefits that you give to certain people that you can't get elsewhere. You often see that in higher tiers, etc. So free delivery for loyalty members, if they do 3 transactions now, that prevents them to go back somewhere else because there will be a new customer. Test and learn. Again, if you're in this situation, you have unprecedented volume, which allows for more and for quicker testing. And try to resist the urge to exploit the situation commercially too long. So don't raise prices. Don't make things hard because you can. Focus on the long-term prices, long-term margins, long-term profits. And then the final slide. This is some research that was done around the last recession period. And I said at the very beginning, it's no longer a question of whether we will have a recession. The question is how deep it'll be and how long it'll be. But what we've learned from the past is any disruption to the norm for any customer is a trigger for customers to reevaluate their shopping decisions, their subscriptions, their products, their suppliers, everything. When I worked responsible for customer retention at British Telecom, for example, the biggest trigger point for customers leaving is when they were moving house. So at that point, they were reevaluating. It's a disruption to the norm. That's when you move suppliers. That's when you move from one business to the next. This is a disruption. Recession is a disruption. COVID-19 is a disruption. People are reevaluating their shopping decisions. And what we've seen in that recession period, 07 to 09, is those customers focusing on customer experience, delivering exceptional experiences, delivering loyalty initiatives, delivering rewards and journeys that customers find engaging and meaningful. They came out stronger. They came out 3 times stronger than those that didn't. And this is my proof point, basically, to conclude today's session, to say there's opportunity in here as much as risk. Let's take it. Thank you much for your attention. We will move to a Q&A session now. I received a couple of questions already on the chat. Please feel free to submit more. While I'm waiting for you to submit more questions, I'm going to take the first one that I found here. There was a question around unique or examples of unique activities by fuel retailers. I have to admit, I don't have an example top of mind that relates to a loyalty program of a fuel retailer. What I've looked at, a couple of things here. Shell, for example, has communicated quite a lot about community activity. So they have made changes in their production. So they're providing base ingredients for sanitizers in their refineries. They are also providing free food to be picked up at the forecourt for healthcare workers. Sorry, I forgot to put on the camera again. Hi, everyone. Similarly, BP, to be honest. What I did find, one innovative service that I thought was quite neat from a fuel retailer forecourt is that they have reintroduced kind of the filling up services. So customers don't have to leave the car or go into the store, but the retailer staff or the fuel retailer staff is actually going to come out, fill the car, and do a contactless payment. So that's what I thought. That was a neat one. I hope that was useful. There is quite a long one. Julia, if you could prepare the slightly longer question, because I haven't read it yet because we were talking. I will go to take the recent question that came in. There's a question, what do we think about luxury brands that are closed and the employees are at home without doing any clienteling action? I'm interpreting this as any client-facing action, not the direct clienteling, which is a tech application. So what do I think? Well, I think similar to what I said earlier, I think it's a missed opportunity. I think there are ways that you can use your employees, especially store staff, especially frontline staff, customer-facing staff, to continue to deliver services to your customers, be it just advisory. It could be fun product videos. It could be, depending on what type of luxury brand it is. For clothes, I think you can do a lot about style advice and style guidance.
Then the second part of the question here is that we're currently doing a lot of online talks and lessons for babies through Instagram, but we get limited audience. So we're not reaching at all our entire community. We wonder whether we should connect more via other channels, for example, via email. I do believe a good idea could be actually having something, if you have, for example, a website when people can check out your services, you could create for example, a community or some content around this these lessons that you provide online. Not only provide them maybe through one social media channel, but centralized the whole initiative on your own website and just promote it on external channels. This give you the chance to actually drag people from different communication channels, email included, and keep anyway the situation under control on your own private channel.
Okay, let's move to the next one. That was on the chat for everybody. So question is around, great, but now we're going to have kind of a move everyone online. Everyone will do services, webinars, e-commerce, etc., etc., etc. How do you still differentiate if everyone is moving? It's a great question, and to answer this properly might not fit in the remaining 5 minutes of this webinar, but I think what we can learn always is that it has to be connected to what your actual value proposition is. So being online or not being online, in a way, at the end of the day, it's a channel. So you have to find the way where how you differentiate, even in an online environment, just the same way that you have to find that way in whatever channel you're in. And it is connected to who you are as a brand and how you deliver your services and what your value proposition is. And it's got to be authentic. But one key thing that applies across all industries is that it won't hurt you to be first. It won't hurt you to be quick, especially now. First mover advantage, I believe, is going to be pertinent here. First mover advantage really exists. The second mover advantage we know about, that the first one doesn't get it quite right and the second one swoops in and has it perfect. I think this is a time where not getting it quite right is less important, as I mentioned it earlier. So go out there and experiment, iterate rapidly, which is easier digitally, and find the right value proposition for your brand. That's why I also wanted to say involve your employees, because then you have a wider pool of things that people can try out their own individual things. You can learn what works and what doesn't work. To really find a new blue ocean, I think you're not going to find the new blue ocean as easy as tuning into this webinar, I'm afraid. You'll have to do a bit more like detailed perspective on your exact brand and your exact situation. Final question almost. Now we have 2 more minutes. Let's see. There's been a question on how can we actually measure whether the more altruistic activity has a positive impact on the brand image, and what like numeric or hard KPIs there might be to measure this. Now, I think the first and most obvious one would be if you have recently measured your brand perception and your brand identity and all the relevant brand metrics, then you can do it before and after, obviously. The metrics mentioned here are useful in just pure volume. How many people are engaging with your content? Can you actually see and measure differences in, let's say, NPS scores, customer satisfaction scores for those people using these altruistic services or contributing and donating to these services compared to others? You could do a dedicated research survey afterwards, particularly specifically asking about the things that you put in place. I mean, and ultimately, again, if this is something that you do together with the customer, you can measure if the spend and the long-term loyalty of any of these customers actually has increased. Quick question here. We got a question in. Interesting to hear like opportunities from a loyalty program. I don't have one. What's a realistic time frame to actually get one launched? Like, I'll give an example of that because I can't say it's going to be this or that. Depends on what you want to do in a loyalty program and depends on your brand. We are currently actually working with a brand. We're about 3 weeks into a project that will launch a loyalty program within 6 weeks from idea to actually being live. So I'm not saying everyone can get it in 6 weeks, but it's possible to launch something actually quite quickly here. Julia, do you want to take a question?
Yes, we have another one coming in. Okay, we have an e-commerce business experiencing a boost, and can you give me some tips on how to keep our new customers and make them loyal? Well, That's an excellent question, actually. And I do believe here there are different strategies that can be adopted based on the specific case that you're in. Either way, what's important to do with this new customer is, one, know who they are. So collecting data, understanding what they like, and then using this data to launch campaigns and actually tailor their experience better. It's one way to go. Two, if the intention is not to launch a loyalty program right away, there are some below the line loyalty campaigns, for example, that you can test and basically try out what sort of incentives are triggering and changing the behavior of these new customers that you still don't know much. Three, you could actually launch a loyalty program with a smaller scope based, as Jörn was mentioning before, on challenges, on badges, or elements that are more flexible and easy to change, and that are just going to be the base for a larger scope loyalty program on a second phase. So the advice in general is start small and build on it with time.
Excellent, thank you. We reached the end. There's one more question. I will answer it, but before I do, for those of you that have to leave, I wanted to say thanks for attending. I hope you found it useful. Again, thank you for the questions. Showed a wide range of interest. If there's anything that you found particularly interesting here, actually, and you want to explore it a little further and just want to have a, non-committal chat about it, you can reach out to us. We can make some time available to talk about your specific situation and help you understand what is possible, what isn't possible. So please just reach out, email to julia.filoso@antavo.com, or come to our website where there will be contact information on how to get in touch. Thanks again. Last question to answer. How advisable it is to launch now a founding competition for a mobile app. I think it would depend on, first of all, is it like a startup mobile app, or is it launched as part of a larger corporate? Because the question is, what audience do you already have, and is there already engagement that you can have with people that you're going to target for this competition? One way I think that could be interesting is to start generating some buzz, to start preparing for the launch of when everything is over, and to already give people rewards and incentives to start using this app as and when things get back to normal. So like giving already some vouchers for some services when this thing comes to life. People shelling out funding now. It's going to be difficult, to be quite honest, about a physical service that requires people to move around town. And I would not say it's the best moment in time, but I also realize if it's a startup, and I have worked a little bit in startup environments as well, time is also obviously of the essence. But I can imagine that this app will not find the greatest audience at this moment in time. But again, it's a bit hard without a little bit more context. Great, wonderful. I heard I'm breaking up a bit. I hope it's okay again now. So thank you again, everyone. The slides will be made available to you. Please feel free to reach out with any other questions or concerns or interests to us afterwards. And stay safe and enjoy Easter as much as you can. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.